Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address has been met with mixed reactions. While some have criticized the president, FW de Klerk Foundation says Ramaphosa's speech indicates a different approach to correcting the wrongs of the last 9 years. Among some of the issues welcomed by the foundation is the re-establishment of a National Security Council and plans to split cash-strapped Eskom into the 3 entities. They've, however, raised concerns around the disputed land issue and the proposed National Health Insurance Bill. So for more on this, I'm joined in studio now by the Foundation's Executive Director, Theuns Eloff. Theuns, thanks a lot for joining us on Newsnight this evening. Now, I've read the piece that you actually wrote about the State of the Nation address. Let's start off on the positive note. So you spoke about how you actually found that this was a speech deliberated by a president who understood his responsibility, and that's the responsibility to all South Africans concerned. He was the people's president when articulating the speech.
Yes. Look, I think that one must see this speech in the context of a year, a few months before the election. It was definitely not an electoral speech. It was a statesman-like speech. I think it was also courageous because it emphasized quite a lot the corruption and the downhill we had the last 9 years. I like particularly 3 aspects which was very interesting worded. You know, speeches are not just written. Every word counts and every word weighs. And towards the end of the speech, the president says that we're looking for a South Africa where every man, woman and child will be provided the opportunity and the means to make their own lives better.
Yeah.
Now, that's far from entitlement. So that's the first one. The second one is that he made the point that, and this was in a sense a bit of a swipe to his predecessor, where he said that he's looking forward to a South Africa where all the leaders will be bold, courageous, and their highest duty will be to do their duty, and that will be their only reward, which is clearly, you shouldn't expect more money or handouts for that. And then the third thing was the whole thing of we're looking at a South Africa that understands its problems in the past, but is firmly looking to the future. And I think that's a forward-looking way, not just the last 9 years, but obviously even apartheid.
I mean, you were speaking about how perhaps this is the time that we start focusing on the next 25 years instead of going on about how to address the injustices of apartheid, not taking away that apartheid has got severe injustices. One such is an issue that you've also come critical on is the issue of land expropriation without compensation. Tell me, first of all, why would you be critical of it? And secondly, have you offered any alternative to the proposal put forward from the president, and not really by government, when it comes to the issue of land? We
made a proposal to a formal written proposal and an oral presentation to the committee. We basically said that we believe that 2 things, the Constitution and its principles do not allow land to be taken away arbitrarily. But secondly, we said we are totally for land reform, rapid land reform. And we quoted the Motlanthe report, which said that in the last 9 years, very little has happened. So the problem is not the Constitution. The problem is the capacity of the state political will.
Well, the implementation thereof.
The implementation thereof. And so we're quite happy. We are also saying that there may be circumstances under which, and I think in the expropriation bill, some of those are mentioned, the one that's on the table now. And in certain circumstances, it may be possible to have a symbolic value of R1 paid to a property that's abandoned or that belongs to the state. But we think we shouldn't cross that line because that could easily lead to land grabs. And obviously, property rights, the sanctity of property rights, not only in a democracy but also in a market economy, is of paramount importance.
So you're saying that if such an initiative gets implemented, land expropriation without compensation, it would do more harm than good for the economy and for the country?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the 2 countries where this has happened, Venezuela and Zimbabwe, speak for themselves.
But then would that not be assuming that we've got a maturing democracy and individuals that understand the cost, number 1, the cost of apartheid, number 2, understanding the cost it takes to actually commercialize land that has been expropriated?
Well, the point is that if the government had done its duty in terms of the Constitution and had the restitution process proper, had given title to those disadvantaged people who had received land, we would have been much further. We don't believe there's a large agricultural land hunger. We believe the biggest land hunger is for people to have a place to build a house. So it's around the cities, and we believe that there's state land and other commercial land that could be used for that.
Yeah, and then on the other side, you call it catastrophic, the catastrophic National Health Insurance Bill.
Yes.
Why would you describe it as catastrophic if it in layman's terms, it simply means providing quality health care for all South Africans, irrespective of color, creed, and also economic standing? So why would that particularly be catastrophic?
We're not against that. It is this bill as it stands, and it was withdrawn really by the government. I was actually surprised that the president put it on again because his office withdrew it. So looking at it again, but the way it was done at the time would have meant that we would have lost almost all our specialists. We would have had a big pressure on some of the private health care clinics, and it wouldn't have helped us with our public hospitals, because the public hospitals problem is not so much a lack of money of the people who pay, but the management and the governance, and that's been proven. So we're not against universal access to health for all South Africans. We are against it to say bring everything down, and this would not have worked. But this was the view of the Treasury. This was the view of the health profession too. So we just sided with him, and we were a bit surprised that he put it in there. Perhaps they will bring it into a different form, and then we can look at it again.
As we bring this conversation to a close, out of 10, what would you give the president?
8.
8 out of 10.
Yes.
Not bad there, Tiens. Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
joining us this evening on Newsnight there. Tiens Ilov, who's the Executive Director of the F.W. de Klerk Foundation.